Good afternoon, dear participants. So we are here to begin the evening session of the fourth day of Atal FBP on stress management. Today we have a very special guest, dietitian Chayanika Sharma with us from Best Diet, who will be talking to us on a very different topic from what has been going on till now. She'll be speaking on how nutrition can affect our health and management of stress. That will be her main theme of talk today. Before she begins her talk, I would like to give a brief introduction on our speaker today. Dietitian Chayanika Sharma is a successful entrepreneur, a well-known, well-qualified dietitian with masters in medical dietetics from MS University of Baroda, which is a World Health Organization collaboration center of Asia. With 14 rich years of experience in her field, she has also worked in the Max Super Speciality Hospital in Gurgaon, Sukhamani Hospital in Delhi, Tripathi Hospital in Noida. She has single-handedly brought up her own brand, Best Diet, a Delhi-based company which not just caters to diet consultancy, but also has come up with 30 wellness products in a span of just 4 years. Among all these products, almost all these products are her formulation and made in India. She is currently present in Guwahati at her clinic, Best Diet, but she also offers online consultations to over thousands of patients worldwide. She is considered to be a leading specialist in her area of expertise. It is a we are very fortunate indeed to have dietitian Chayanika Sharma today amongst us to learn something new, to learn how our food habits can impact our health and on the stress management. So now I would like to welcome her to this platform, to this program, and I would like to hand over the session so that she can carry forward. Ma'am, please take over.
Yeah. A very good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible, Aradhana?
Yes, ma'am, perfectly audible. Your PPT is also visible.
Yeah. My sincere thanks to Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering of Guwahati University for inviting me to present this presentation on nutrition and stress management, and we'll be talking about how we can beat stress with diet and nutrition. In our life, at some point or other, we all must have faced, we all must have suffered from stress. But during this period of COVID-19 pandemic, due to changes in lifestyle, uncertainty as to what may happen in future, financial pressure, social isolation, of course, which has have had a tremendous effect on especially the elderly and small children. And also, it has also affected our mental health because a lot of us are afraid that if we go out, we may fall ill and we may contract the COVID-19. And also, even if not that, if we have some elderly member in the family who already has some illness, and because of the COVID-19, they are not able to go to the hospital and get the required treatment or consult the doctors. So we all are even afraid that their health might deteriorate. So keeping in mind everything, and also above all, the infodemic that is going on, that is a bombardment of information, the overload of information that has been circulating on social media since February and March, ever since the COVID-19 has started. We have seen so many people posting so much of information on social media, so many videos coming up, and mostly it is from unauthentic sources, and people are confused what all to believe, what to trust, what is the actual truth, and which is the correct information. So everything all together due to such changes over the past few months this has resulted in a lot of stress and anxiety in a majority of our population. So we can define stress as the pattern of responses an organism makes to stimulus events that disturbs our equilibrium and exceeds our ability to cope with. And it can also vary in terms of intensity, duration, complexity, and also predictability. More or less, we all are aware of the signs and symptoms of stress, such as depression and anxiety, anger, irritability, restlessness, People may be demotivated most of the time. Some people may be not able to sleep at night. Maybe some are sleeping too much. And maybe some are constantly worrying about the present and future. And some are not even able to concentrate at work, at studies. And some people are also making impulsive bad decisions. So these are all some very common signs and symptoms of stress. So as a result of stress, these are having a tremendous effect on our emotional health. It also affects us physiologically. We have effects on our cognitive behavior, and also we have our behavioral effects. Due to combination of such effects, all these factors, they are affecting our eating pattern. Okay, so the effect of stress on our appetite are divided into two categories. One is eating less, which is called hypophagia, which usually occurs during death or due to tremendous amount of sorrow if if some untoward incident happens in the family, or due to some chronic illness, because of which the appetite reduces tremendously, and also because of this, people have almost zero appetite, or maybe the appetite decreases considerably. And also the second category is of hyperphagia, that is eating more when you have got a lot of stress at work, at studies, or maybe even family related stress or anxiety. And what happens is that when our body is under stress, our body starts secreting a hormone, that is the cortisol hormone. It is known as the stress hormone. And when the level of the cortisol hormone increases in our body has got this unique way of suppressing any kind of untoward process that goes on, and our body tries to suppress this cortisol, the secretion of the cortisol hormone, and this happens by making us craving for more foods which are sweet, which are fatty, and which are salty in nature. So, but as a result of this, even if we eat this kind of junk foods, this does decreases stress, but this is only a momentary benefit. And again, this cycle repeats. The stress will come back immediately after the effects of junk food subside, and then this cycle repeats again and again. And ultimately, what happens is that you end up eating more. Also, in case of restrictive eating, that is hypophagia, when there's a death in the family, or maybe due to chronic illness, or maybe due to sorrowful events in the family, even if there is less appetite, certain studies have indicated that such subjects under stress who have been offered foods during such moments, and these subjects, even though they were offered a variety of foods, these subjects are even they were suffering from sorrow, and they still opted for foods that are fatty in nature, and they opted for chocolates and cake based sweets, salty food, etc. This indicates that whether it is hypophagia or hypophagia, in case of stress, people usually have a craving for fatty foods, sweets, and salty snacks. Ultimately, the effect of such foods on the body is that if we have some pre-existing conditions in our body, such as diabetes, high BP, fatty liver, uric acid, abnormal lipid profile, that is the increase in the bad cholesterol levels, kidney condition, etc. So all these pre-existing conditions may worsen because of such food habits during stress. And the visible effects are, of course, weight gain. And again, weight gain again leads to guilt, anger, low self-confidence. But again, medically, if we speak, weight gain leads to varieties of lifestyle disorders such as diabetes, heart diseases, cancer, etc. So let us see how we can combat stress. Dr. Albers said that if you are someone who is prone to emotional eating, identify your triggers, know what stresses you out, and be prepared. So let us come to the real topic of today's discussion, how to beat stress with a diet. First and foremost are the anti-inflammatory foods. We need to wisely choose the anti-inflammatory foods, and then we also need to incorporate a lot of probiotics in our diet, and also vitamin D rich foods, and plus water, of course. Even though I've written water the last option, but water is, of course, one of the very important foods in reducing stress. Okay, now what is inflammation? Whenever any foreign object, such as microorganisms, whether it is bacteria or virus or any kind of pollens from the flowers or any chemicals enter our body, then our body tries to eliminate these substances from the body, and this is when the immune system activates, and and during this process, the process of inflammation gets triggered. But this does not mean that only during such phenomenon the inflammation starts. On and off, day in and day out, during such illnesses such as cancer, heart diseases, diabetes, arthritis, Alzheimer's, also inflammation keeps on taking place every day, all the time, every second of the day. And this also is similar in case of stress, anxiety, and depression. So, for reducing stress, we need to first of all focus on anti-inflammatory foods, and let us see what are the anti-inflammatory foods. First of all, it is the local and seasonal fruits and vegetables. Next come the whole grains, then plant-based proteins, fatty fish, and then fresh herbs and spices. Now, when we talk of fruits and vegetables, we have a variety of fruits and vegetables around us, locally available. Everything is available. But what all to choose is a big question. But the mantra is that you need to choose a rainbow-colored platter of fruits and vegetables. That is, it can be pink, it can be red, yellow, orange, it can be green, all varieties of green foods and fruits, and it can also be blue, purple, or pinkish fruits and vegetables. Whatever is available, we need to incorporate on a daily basis, because each of these this fruit or vegetable has got something or the other important nutrient which is very essential for us in some way or the other, and all of them are very rich in antioxidants, which will definitely suppress the stressful processes that goes on in our body. Now, when we talk of grains, whole grains, what are whole grains? Grains, we always have it. It is a staple. Some people have rice as the staple food. Some have wheat as the staple food in the form of rotis or parathas. But when we talk of white rice, it is devoid of fiber, because the husk is totally removed from the rice, and we get white rice. And now, of course, atta or the wheat flour that is available in the market, we get varieties of atta, varieties of wheat flour. But then mostly it is also devoid of the fiber. So the hulling of the husk is something which makes the grains a simple carbohydrate. So to reduce stress and to incorporate a lot of antioxidant laden cereals, the mantra is to incorporate and include foods, the grains which are whole in nature. That is, the husk is somewhat intact in the grains. For example, if we are having rice, then we can opt for red rice or the brown rice, which have got considerable amount of fiber in it. Or we can go for bajra, we can go for jawar, if we can go for ragi, or we can go for any other form of millets, or even dalia and even oats. And as for working professionals, people usually prefer for dalia as a as a breakfast food. And also there are people who are having oats. But because fiber is important, because of time constraints, we need to very carefully plan our breakfast, because once you're out for the day, you need to have a wholesome breakfast in the morning itself. For example, people who are having oats or dalia on a regular basis, instead of having it only with milk, it is always wise to have it in the form of as a salty food in combination with vegetables. Just like you prepare khichdi, you can add a lot of green vegetables. If you don't have time even to cut other vegetables, you can even chop down some good amount of onions, a lot of coriander leaves, and if you have capsicum, even that you can incorporate, and also a lot of tomatoes can be added, and then you can prepare your breakfast meal that way and make it more nutritious and more rich in fiber. So these are some simple ways how you can incorporate whole grains in your diet. Next we come to plant proteins. Of course, when you talk of plant proteins, why I am focusing on plant proteins is that there is no doubt that animal proteins are very rich sources of proteins, are direct sources of proteins. But here we are talking about stress management, and when we talk of stress, it has to be anti-inflammatory in nature, and we need to have antioxidants in our foods. So, as an anti-inflammatory agent, we need to consider plant proteins as one of those, because and also green leafy vegetables. Most of the people, especially clients who come to me for either weight gain or weight loss, and the first thing when they say is that we are vegetarian. How can we gain weight with vegetarian food, or how can we reduce weight with vegetarian food? But the simplest example that I can give them is if we take an example of the cow. The cow is a purely vegetarian animal, and it simply eats only grass and leaves and other leafy plants. So keeping that in mind, which means plant proteins are sufficient as a source of protein in our diet. So green leafy vegetables such as spinach or amaranth, that is the cholai saag, or in Assamese we call it morisa hak, or even broccoli or other green leafy vegetables are all very rich in protein, including a very important ingredient, especially which is available easily available in Northeast, in West Bengal, and also the South in South India. That is the drumstick leaves, that is moringa, which is also a very rich source of protein. In addition to the green leafy vegetables, we have other sources of proteins. That is, we have our dals, any kind of dal. It can be masoor dal, moong dal, chana dal, arhar dal, urad ki dal, any kind of dal, or it can be even the whole legumes. It can be rajma, it can be lobia, it can be chole, it can be peanuts. Sorry, it can be chickpeas, it can be moong, it can be any of the whole legumes. All these are very rich in proteins, and we have to use them in a mix and match manner. And it should be in a it should not be monotonous. If you're having moong or masoor dal, or if you're having just chana in a particular week, that does not mean you'll always have just only these grains, these pulses. So it is always wise to incorporate to keep all the varieties at home, and then always use them in a mix and match manner. The other source of plant protein are the nuts that we have. That is, we have the walnuts, we have the cashew nuts, the pistas, we also have chickpeas. So all these are rich sources of plant proteins, and these are all very rich in antioxidants and highly anti-inflammatory in nature. And if we talk of proteins at this moment, I would just like to inform you one very important aspect is that for keeping protein, animal protein as a major source of protein source is something which will make us ill in the long run, because several studies have shown that if we consider animal protein as the major source of protein, then it is one of the major causes of colon cancer. So it should be always taken in moderate amounts, and we should switch to plant proteins such as these food items that I have mentioned. But at the same time, if any of you have got certain kidney problems, like if your creatinine is high, if you have uric acid high, if your uric acid is high, or if you have gallstones or kidney stones, then your food options will have to be carefully calculated. It is just because I've mentioned here, it does not mean that you'll be able to have all of this as an anti-inflammatory food. It has to be carefully planned for you. Next, we come to the microgreens. Microgreens are the sprouts. The sprouts can be either from flax seeds or sunflower seeds or chia seeds, moong, or even basil, or even mustard. And you can even get sprouts of the mustard seeds at home itself, or wheat grains if you have. You can even sprout them, or even chana. All these microgreens, because they are growing, they are sprouting. These are live cells, and these are also very rich in oxygen. So they are very rich in antioxidants, and this tremendously help in reducing the stress, because whatever stressful process is going on in our body, whatever free radicals are being released in the body, the oxygen here the antioxidants present in these microgreens will definitely help in reducing the toxic level of our body, and in turn help in reducing the stress level of our body. Next, we have good sources of fat. When we talk of good source, it is mostly about the omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6, omega-7, and omega-9. First and foremost, when we talk of omega-3, it is from fish source. If you are non-vegetarian, then you can have a good amount of fatty fish daily. But of course, the fish has to be shallow fried. Even if you have fatty fish daily, and if you are frying, deep frying in oil, then the good amount of or the good fat that the fish has got will be nullified by the bad effect of the oils that are there already. So in case you are non-vegetarian, if you do not have fish, and then you can also go for the fish oil capsules. And in case if you do not have fish oil capsules, but if fish oil capsules are very rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are very good for the heart, and also anti-inflammatory in nature. And for vegetarian people, the other sources of omega are flax seeds oil, or the chia seeds oil, pumpkin seeds oil, sesame oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil, all these kinds of oils are there. But because they are from vegetarian sources, omega-3 has got two different parts. One is EPA and one is DHA. The seed-based oils are deficient in DHA. That is the reason why fish oil capsules are a better alternative. But because sea fish they eat a lot of seaweeds, and seaweeds in the form of spirulina, which is now easily available nowadays in the form of superfoods. So even if you don't eat any of this, even if you have spirulina daily, then you get good amount of DHA, that which is a good fat in your diet, and which are all anti-inflammatory in nature. Okay, speaking of oil, a lot of people who come to me, a lot of clients, they boast of that they use olive oil for cooking, they use this oil for cooking. And even in the advertisements, we see that a lot of brands, they are promoting their oil saying that our oil has got original, this is good for diabetes. Another brand says we have got a lot of antioxidants, this is good for heart. But let me tell you, my dear friends, that the oils which claim that they have got antioxidants are not the real antioxidants that we are talking about, which are helpful and anti-inflammatory nature. The antioxidants that are being used in oil, that are added in oil, is used so that the oil does not become rancid, so that the oil does not start smelling bad. It is because of that those antioxidant chemicals, those are actually chemicals that are being used on those oils. And any oil that are refined in nature, that is whichever form of oil we find, and it is written refined oil, it means it has undergone a process of tremendous heat, and these oils have undergone a lot of chemical processes, which means that this oil is not actually oil, it is just a frying medium, and it is not healthy at all. But the wiser option is to always get mustard oil. But again, I will tell you one more thing, that even if you have mustard oil, there are certain brands in the market which are available in the market. I'll not take the names, but your for your information, you can whenever you go and buy oils in the market, even if it is mustard oil, look for the ingredients. If they say they have got deep when they PDMA or deep TBHQ or antioxidant in them, then don't buy such mustard oil. Buy mustard oil which are only which have written only mustard oil as the ingredients. However, the mustard oil, which are only pure mustard oil without any chemical treatment, are also heated, because oil has got this nature of getting rancid in no time. So that is the reason a lot of pure mustard oil brands also, they heat the oil after they extract the oil from the mustard seeds. So when you get mustard oil, if you can source from farms, and if you can get the purely extracted, the freshly extracted mustard oil, that is the best oil that you can use for cooking. And next we have coconut oil and ghee. There are many people who use coconut oil and ghee as a cooking medium, but let me tell you, coconut oil has got MCT, and ghee with its very good beneficial effects will only work best only if these two are used as toppings. For example, coconut oil, a few drops if you use as topping on top of your dal or curries, then this will give the maximum benefit of the coconut oil. And similarly with ghee, only if it is used as topping, then only you'll get maximum benefit of the ghee and not as trans fatty acids. Then next we have extra virgin olive oil. There are several refined oil varieties of olive oil, but all of them are refined varieties, so we should not use them because they are all refined and they have got chemicals in them. And if we use extra virgin olive oil, it has to be in the form of dressings or toppings only, because some people find it difficult to cook in extra virgin olive oil. So these are the few oils which are good in nature, which are safe for us, and have got anti-inflammatory properties. But again, just because they are good in nature does not mean that we can have them in excess amount. These are all oils, these are fats, so we all should have them in limitations only. Okay. So next, anti-inflammatory food, other spices and herbs. All these ingredients that you can see on the slide here are all available in our kitchen. The ginger, the long pepper, bay leaf, turmeric, star anise, cinnamon, clove, black pepper, nutmeg, everything. All of these are and have got anti-inflammatory properties. So we should always try to have them in a food, in the different recipes. We can incorporate them, or we can also have this mixture of these spices in the form of tea. So like especially in the form like these very ingredients, these are few of the ingredients which are in fact being recommended by the Department of Ayush, the Ministry of Ayush, I should say. Even they are recommending these ingredients as part of the Ayush Kara that is being used against coronavirus. So you can use them not just for the coronavirus, but if you have these ingredients on a daily basis in your foods or in the form of tea or in the form of drinks, then this will definitely reduce the stress level in an effective manner. And star anise is a very effective ingredient. If you have a lot of stress at your work, at your home, and if you're not able to sleep, then just pound some star anise and you can make a tea out of it, and this will immediately induce sleep, and you will get a good night's sleep after having this tea. Okay. The caution is that we have to smartly choose these foods for maximum benefits. Just because I have mentioned the names of this food, just because we get to know that all these are anti-inflammatory in nature, this does not mean that we will keep including these foods randomly on and off every day. But we have to smartly choose them so that we can get all the nutrients, all the anti-inflammatory properties in a proper way. So some of these points are that I have seen many people who cut the vegetables and then they cook the vegetables. But the fruits and vegetables we always have to wash beforehand, because if we cut them and then wash them, the surface area, the cut area are exposed, and then when we dip them in the water, the nutrients, the vitamins and minerals, and all the essential nutrients will just get drained away along with the water. Hence, it is always advisable to wash them before and then cut and then eat them or cook them. And also, when you cook vegetables, it is always wise to cook them covered, because the nutrients, the vitamins and minerals, most of them are volatile in nature. So if we don't cover them while cooking, then the vitamins and minerals will just volatilize, and we will not be getting sufficient of nourishment from these cooked vegetables. So we should always cover them so that we get sufficient amount of vitamins and minerals, and these are all antioxidants and anti-inflammatory. That is the reason why we should try to maintain the nutrition level of these vegetables by cooking them covered. Also, there are people who may not be able to have other fruits. And then just a simple example, I would say there are people who are even heating or boiling apple just for the sake of giving apple. But when we heat fruits are very rich in vitamin C and other nutrients are of course there. But vitamin C is a heat labile vitamin, and when we heat, just a little amount of heat is sufficient to destroy vitamin C. So that is the reason we should never heat fruits, and we should always have them in its raw form and in cut form, and not in the form of juices. Also, a lot of people nowadays have got low hemoglobin, their blood levels are low. And because of this, they search for a lot of iron-rich foods. They may even have iron tablets, but iron alone cannot be absorbed by the body. Whatever food you have, whether it is spinach, whether it is egg, whether it is non-vegetarian food, or any kind of iron-rich foods that you have, the iron from it will not be solely absorbed properly. It will only get fully absorbed by the body in the presence of vitamin C. That is the reason when you have a major meal such as your breakfast, your lunch or dinner, or any food that is rich in iron and folic acid, you should always have some amount of lemon with that, or some such citrus fruits like mosambi or orange with it. Also, we should avoid having tea or coffee with foods, because tea or coffee, they have got caffeine in them, and the iron that we have in our foods will get destroyed by the caffeine present in tea and coffee. That is the reason why we should avoid tea and coffee along with foods. However, you can have your tea or coffee half an hour before the food, or half an hour after taking the iron rich foods. Also, when we talk a lot about haldi, even our PM has been focusing about the haldi cow during this pandemic time. But haldi alone cannot be absorbed properly by our body. Now, there is something called a bioavailability. The bioavailability is very poor in turmeric, but its absorption gets increased by several folds, by around 2000 times when it is taken in combination with a pinch of pepper. Hence, when you cook food or when you prepare haldi chai, then you can just add a pinch of pepper into it. This will enhance the absorption of the haldi. Also, with this, I would like to inform one more important information is that the turmeric that we that we get in the market. For example, a lot of, especially during this pandemic time, a few turmeric brands on the television, they have come with advertisements saying that curcumin se bharpur. Curcumin is there in every haldi. Whatever haldi it is, the yellow color itself comes from the curcumin. And in fact, the very scientific name of haldi is curcuma longum. So it is curcumin is there, but which haldi is important? All the haldi that we get in the market have got curcumin percentage only hardly 2 to 3%, or at the most salam turmeric will have 4%. But the real turmeric will only give you maximum benefit. It will have only proper anti-inflammatory effect only if the curcumin percentage is very high, that is above 6 or above 7. So if you want to know more about it towards the end of this presentation, you can ask me from where to source such turmeric. I will guide you about this turmeric. Okay, apart from this anti-inflammatory fruits and vegetables, there are other superfoods. For example, moringa, which I already mentioned. Moringa, which is drumstick. To have drumstick in any form, in the stick form, in the leaves, or use the seeds, or use the bark in the form of, you can, just like you use ashwagandha or giloy in your tea and in your herbal recipes. So you can have moringa, every part of the moringa or the drumstick tree can be used. So moringa is a superfood and has got tremendous amount of anti-inflammatory effects. It is not just rich in iron, but also in a lot of vitamin C, vitamin A, calcium, iron, and protein. Similarly, we have spirulina, which is a seaweed. It is a blue green algae, but again, spirulina directly from the sea is not consumable, so it has to be from proper harvested conditions. So it has to be from authentic sources. But at the same time, even if you try to order spirulina online, there are certain brands, they are mixing soybean powder with spirulina. So that is the reason, the source from where you buy spirulina, if you want to get maximum benefit out of it, then it has to be just pure spirulina and not mixture of other ingredients. Similarly, wheatgrass. Wheatgrass, of course, instead of buying wheatgrass powder from online or from anywhere else, it is always wise to just germinate the wheat grains that you have, and you can have those wheatgrass daily in the form of salads or in the form of juices at home. And then again, high curcumin turmeric. In Northeast itself, we have got very good high percentage curcumin turmeric from Meghalaya, from Manipur. So all these turmerics are superfoods. And then we have another superfood which is native to Assam, that is khar. It is an alkaline extract. It is prepared either from the peel from a particular kind of banana, or it is also prepared from the strips of the banana plant, the trunk of the banana plant, and then those are burnt, and then they are mixed with water, and the extract that is derived from it is called khar, and this is alkaline in nature. This is anti-inflammatory in nature. This also reduces high blood pressure. It also reduces the acidic level of the stomach, and ultimately it reduces stress. And also at the same time, I would also like to say, just because this is anti-inflammatory and good, and it is good for stress and high blood pressure, but if you have kidney disorders, then you should have this khar or this alkaline extract in restricted amounts. Okay, the next anti-inflammatory food is probiotic. Probiotics are the good bacteria that we need for our body. Our intestines or the gut or our colon has got a host of varieties of bacteria. Those are all bad bacteria, and because of the toxins released from them, the toxins are get accumulated in the intestine, and somehow they also get absorbed in our by our blood, and because of which they cause a host of other, they are the causes of certain diseases. And at the same time, also they cause a lot of gassiness and puffiness, and because of this, because of a bad gut or a bad colon, or because of poor digestion, absorption, because of gassiness, because of constipation, because of such things, most people are under a lot of stress. So for reducing the bad bacterial colony from our gut, we have to incorporate some good bacteria. And when we incorporate good bacteria, and good bacteria does not mean just one or two kinds of bacteria. There are several kinds of good bacteria which we can have in different forms. And when we introduce this good bacteria in our gut, and they remove the bad bacteria. They help in eliminating the bad bacteria. The gassiness reduces, constipation reduces, and also if some kind of damage occurs in the internal lining of our intestines, then that also gets healed. And also this helps in reducing the inflammatory processes in our body, thereby reducing stress. Hence, it has got good bacteria or probiotics have got a direct connection with our brain, and there are several researches which have also which have proved the mind-gut connection of probiotic bacteria. Now, also, did you know that there are specific kinds of bacteria which act on specific diseases? For example, if somebody has a recurrent urinary tract infection or UTI, then certain kind of bacteria also help in specifically eliminating the candida infection. Then there are bacteria which are specific for foul odor. There are bacteria specific for constipation, and there is also a particular kind of bacteria which also reduces blood sugars. So there are different kinds of good bacteria which have got specific actions, and also ultimately they help in increasing our immunity. That is the reason why these are also anti-inflammatory in nature. Some examples of probiotics are fermented rice. Fermented rice is the rice that is cooked overnight, but it is dipped in water overnight, and then this rice gets fermented till the morning, and this can be consumed in varieties of ways. And fermented rice is popularly known as Koita Bhat in Assam, as Panta Bhat in Bengal, and also Pakala Bhat in Orissa. So it is up to us in what way we can incorporate the fermented rice in a diet, where either you can have as a breakfast in the morning, but along with some good amount of proteins and some good amount of vegetables too. This will make your breakfast complete. Also, there are other probiotics such as kanji or any low or salt fermented pickles or drinks. These are all, or any kind of fermented drinks or pickles are very rich sources of probiotics. Next, we of course have a curd and lassi. All these are all probiotics, have got lactobacillus bacteria in it, and also fermented fish and fermented beans. So Northeast is a place where in every state you will find the use of fermented fish and fermented beans, especially in the tribal states. So, and though the states are different, the basic ingredient, that is the fermented fish or the fermented beans, or the basic ingredient remains the same. And the names are different, the names of the recipes are different. But these very fermented fish or the fermented beans, they are very rich in probiotics because they are fermented. But if they are taken in the form of chutney only, they will be good source of probiotic. And if they are cooked in some form or the other, then the probiotic bacteria will definitely get destroyed. Next, anti-inflammatory food are the vitamin D rich food. Vitamin D, we all know it is a sunshine vitamin. Because it is a sunshine vitamin, because we are mostly confined indoors, 98 to 99% of the Indian population suffers from vitamin D deficiency. Due to vitamin D deficiency, there are certain lifestyle problems that have started. For example, even weight gain also happens due to vitamin D deficiency. Hypothyroidism. Vitamin D is a common cause of hypothyroidism. That is the reason if you have hypothyroidism, then your doctor should definitely give you vitamin D and calcium supplements along with your thyroid medications. Along with that, also vitamin D is a major cause of heart diseases too, and other hormonal imbalances, including infertility. So vitamin D it has got a variety of good effects, and is also anti-inflammatory in nature. And that is the reason during this COVID-19 pandemic, people who had been already having good amount of vitamin D in their body, or who had been having vitamin D supplements or vitamin D rich food, are suffering less from the COVID-19 symptoms. Some sources of vitamin D are, of course, the sunlight, which, of course, very few of us get. But if you get some time, you can expose yourself in your early morning sunlight. You can stand under sunlight for at around 7:30 or so for around 15 to 20 minutes. And but you have to keep maximum part of your skin exposed, so that maximum amount of vitamin D gets absorbed through your skin. From food sources, you can get from egg yolk, and with egg yolk out. Also, like you said, that there are people who have been talking about egg yolk is bad for people with high cholesterol levels, but egg yolk has got good cholesterol. It is not bad, and we also need cholesterol for our brains and also for our kidneys and heart. So that is the reason, even if you have one yolk daily, it will not harm you until and unless you have got other medical conditions. So egg yolk is not just a source of vitamin D, but also a good source of vitamin B12. B12 helps in blood formation. If you are deficient in hemoglobin, then you should definitely have egg yolk if you are non-vegetarian or vegetarian. Also, pure milk, the local fresh milk that we get from the local milkman is also rich in vitamin D, and also mushrooms. Mushrooms are also rich sources of vitamin D. Okay, so next we come to the next anti-inflammatory food, that is water. Though I have come to the later part of the anti-inflammatory foods, but water is the first and foremost thing that we should consider for reducing stress. And the ideal amount of water that we should have is 2 liters to 2.5 liters of water. There are people who have got a lot of migraine attacks or maybe headaches or even constantly they keep on getting belching and indigestion, and they get a lot of gastritis problem. And then when I take their dietary history, I come to see that it is just the deficiency of water that they are having that is causing this problem. So it is always ideal to drink water, and water is the best food, the best medicine, in fact. So the ideal amount that we should drink is 2 liters to 2.5 liters, but it always varies with your body basics, such as your age, weight, and height. Depending upon your age, weight, and height, your water requirement will also vary. But water also does not mean in the form of visible glass of water or bottle of water. It can be also from the salads or fruits that you have on a daily basis. So it is always important to have all kinds of watery fruits in our daily diet. The wise advice is that all foods do not suit everybody. Even though I have given you a lot of information of the different kinds of anti-inflammatory foods here, but every person has a unique metabolism. Your own metabolism is different from your very own brother or sister. So you have a unique kind of medical history. Your food tolerance level, you may have certain allergies. You may not be able to digest certain kind of foods. So all foods will not suit you. So it is always wise to have only the right kind of foods in appropriate combination. Then only they will be anti-inflammatory in nature. So if you do not make time for your wellness, that means if you do not consider food as a medicine, if you do not take some time to plan your meals properly, then definitely in your future you'll have to make time for your illness by taking rounds of the hospitals. When your diet itself is wrong, no medicine is going to work. And when your diet is correct, when you have the right amount of food in the correct combination in right amounts, then you will not need medication at all. So with this, I would like to conclude. I would welcome any kind of questions from any of you. Please do feel free to ask. Thank you. Aradhana, I'm done.
There is a query how to reduce the weight.
Reduce the weight. See, actually, for weight gain, when somebody gains weight, there can be several factors. Can you hear me? When
Yes,
somebody
yes.
gains weight, there can be various factors. It can be either vitamin D deficiency, or it can be either it can be other, maybe your intake is not proper. Maybe you're not taking sufficient amount of with fruits and vegetables. Maybe you're just having a lot of cereals, or maybe more of your fat fried foods. And also there may be other illnesses such as your thyroid disorders may be there, or and other kind of hormonal imbalances may be there. First of all, we have to identify the cause. What is the cause of the weight gain? Once we can identify the cause, and sometimes even people cannot digest food properly, they have a lot of constipation problems, gastritis problem, so absorption is also there. If absorption is also poor, then obviously weight gain will also take place. So once we identify that what is the cause of the weight gain, we have to first fix the cause. Then only we can accordingly plan the diet, and then we can help with the weight loss. Because there cannot be a fixed diet plan for weight loss. You can come across so many kind of fat diets that comes on Google. You just Google on diet for weight loss, and so many kinds of diets will come. Like intermittent fasting will come, keto diets will come. But all these are short and temporary, and they are also harmful. They don't suit everybody. Your diet always has to be as per your normal, your regular food. It is dal, roti, sabji, and rice. If you're having, so it has to be normal food, regular food, and with that, which is planned accordingly as per your body's requirement, as per your medical history. Then only your weight will reduce healthily. Because nothing short term will help you in the long run. Only if you have good foods, only if you have balanced food with the required amount of calories, this will help in reducing your weight in a healthy manner. Because there are people you come across who drastically reduce a lot of weight, maybe on their own, maybe by just googling the kind of diet they should eat, or maybe by keto diet or intermittent fasting. And then after they reduce 6, 7 kgs, or maybe even 10, 15 kgs, they will start developing wrinkles, they will have loose skin, and then you'll have hair fall, and so many other kind of side effects will be there. So that is why always it is the best way to first of all find the cause of the weight gain, and then plan your diet in such a manner so that you can also eat a normal homely cooked food, and also you don't suffer from any deficiencies. And in fact, when you reduce weight, you should in fact start looking younger, and must have healthier looking skin. So that is all about weight loss. If you have more queries about weight loss, please do ask.
Mm.
Uh, Hello,
Yeah.
ma'am. As you said, no people with high uric acid or creatinine, or
Mhm.
having a gallstone,
Hmm.
and they are vegetarian. So
Yes.
many times the doctor restricts on the green leafy vegetables and all that.
So it is not about, if you talk about uric acid, then it is mostly, uric acid is a byproduct of purine metabolism. Purine comes from animal foods. So if you have high uric acid levels, then first and foremost, you have to reduce your meat products. That is, it can be any of the meat or even fishes. But if you have high uric acid levels, if you are an vegetarian, you can go for egg whites, which is not harmful in uric acid patients. But if you have other problems, like if you have kidney problems, if you have kidney stones, then of course you have to reduce certain kinds of dals. If you have other kidney problems, such as if you have high creatinine levels, then there are certain kinds of green leafy vegetables which you have to stop. And but at the same time, I'd also like to say, when you reduce when you eliminate these foods from your diet, then what happens is that you suffer from deficiency of those nutrients which are there in those foods. So that is the reason you have, when you have any kind of such kind of medical conditions, and when there are some restrictions come, so that you don't suffer from deficiencies, and at the same time your problem has also to be it has to be solved. So always, whenever you get such problem, always consult a qualified dietitian who can nicely calculate your requirements. Your qualified dietitian will first have to take your medical history in details, your dietary intake in details, have to identify what all deficiencies you have, consider your medical reports, consider your also your the medications that you're having, because there are certain medicines which will interfere with absorption of certain nutrients. So keeping everything in mind, only the foods that are to be included has to be nicely calculated and formulated in your diet.
Ma'am, even the gallstone, in case of gallstone, the
In
calcium
case
will
of
also.
gall See, in
Yeah.
case of gallstone, first and foremost, if doctor says you have to go for a surgery, then go for a surgery. There is no point in waiting in delaying for the surgery, because this is something which will definitely give problem in the long run. And the function of gallbladder is that it produces bile. Bile acids help in digesting fats. But when you have gallstone, obviously there is malfunctioning of the gallbladder, and because it does not work properly, because there is not sufficient amount of bile acids in your body, because so you'll not be able to digest fatty foods. So first of all, you have to reduce the intake of fatty foods, but not totally only eliminate, because fat is also important. Little bit of fat is also important in a diet. At the same time, if you have gallstone along with kidney stone, then at that moment we have to stop certain kind of dals and also oats at that moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am, good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is with age, like as we go near 40, the bone
Yeah.
density decreases. So we get pains normally, back pain, then waist, spinal cord, then sometimes calf muscles and all. So, ma'am, to recover, what should we take actually? Calcium.
No, first of all, fix a vitamin D deficiency, because even if you keep taking calcium, no doubt calcium is important. But if your diet is rich in calcium already, there is no point in taking extra calcium tablets. But if you're taking sufficient amount of vitamin D will help in absorption of calcium that is there in your food. So vitamin D is something which has to be fixed first of all. If your calcium levels are actually low, then doctor will accordingly prescribe the calcium supplements. But try to fix first of all with your diet. But at the same time, if there is pain in the calf muscles, then it can be a combination of calcium deficiency plus water. Well, there may be deficiency of water too, and also vitamin B12 and other B vitamins. So once your intake can be understood that you're not taking sufficient amount of B vitamins, then incorporation of those B vitamins in addition with appropriate amount of calcium, vitamin D of course is important, and plus water has to be taken. But at the same time, if there is problem with your knees, like for example, the ligaments in the knees, if they are reducing, then that means you have to fix the ligaments. And for that, of course, you need to go for certain kinds of food supplements, not chemicals, but food supplements. Always, I would say, in my experience, even a 76 years old lady who could not walk have started walking with just food, and no other medication, no knee replacement surgery was done, just food. Once the cause is identified, once the right amount of food is given, then also the ligaments starts getting like the knitting, well, like you knit woolen clothes. Similarly, the ligaments also start repairing, and then automatically the cushioning will take place. The knee pain will also reduce. So it is always the cause deficiency of which vitamins, which nutrients are there in your body has to be fixed first, and then only we should go for medication.
Okay, so, ma'am, if calcium is sufficient in the normal diet, the required calcium we are getting from the normal diet, then we don't need to, like, bone density won't be affected even if we are aging, right?
If your bone density is very less, then your doctor will definitely calcium supplements, and I will also say yes if it is very less, because if you have sufficient amount of calcium in your body, that means your body cannot absorb extra calcium. Even if your body absorbs extra calcium, then extra calcium will start getting deposited in your arteries and start clogging the arteries. And also, it is harmful for when there are other factors also. There are other after effects of extra calcium due to calcium toxicity. So that is the reason your calcium levels, your vitamin D levels, your doctor and your dietitian will decide what kind of calcium supplements you actually need. But first and foremost, vitamin D and calcium from food is very important.
Okay.
What are the keto diets?
Yeah.
What are these keto diets?
Yeah, keto diets are very popular these days, but then no qualified dietitian or no properly educated dietitian will ever prescribe keto diets, because these are very rich in fats and proteins. Extra fats and proteins, they alter the body's metabolism. It is keto diets have got very less amount of maybe 20 to 40% of carbohydrate only, but that is not the right way, because keto diets are usually given in case of autistic children, in case of Alzheimer's patient, or in case of epilepsy. But nowadays, this quack nutritionists have come up with this shortcut methods of reducing weight using keto diets. But keto diets are actually harmful because they are rich in fat. If you have some pre-existing condition, like your cholesterol levels are already high, if you have other liver problems, if you have kidney problems, and if you have gallstones, then keto diets will definitely harm you. In just 1 week, you'll get all the bad effects of keto diets. So before going for shortcut method, always think that there are better ways, there are healthier ways of reducing weight. Never go for shortcut diets, because there are people who are also giving intermittent fasting for diabetic patients. But keto diets and intermittent fasting are not at all recommended for diabetics, because most of the people, the obese people, are also diabetic or borderline diabetic, and keto diets are especially very harmful for such patients. Always give a try to normal food, regular food. Normal, if you're having normal dal roti, sabji, or rice, then you can also reduce your weight just with this. But the right amount of food has to be incorporated, and then only you will reduce in a healthy manner. There is no shortcut. If you have put on weight over the years, then we cannot expect the weight to go in just 15 days. I mean, there are people who are claiming you can reduce weight with certain shakes like Herbalife and all. They have come up with protein shakes. They are doing their people with the quacks who are prescribing keto diets. They are also saying we will reduce 15 kgs in a month. But it is so logical. If you have taken years to put on so much weight, then also you have to give time to your body to reduce this much of weight. There is no shortcut to it. And also, if you reduce weight very fast, even by yourself, by reducing your food intake, then the very first effect that you'll get is gallstones. Gallbladder stones is the first side effect that you'll get when you drastically reduce weight, even if you don't do keto diet. So it has to be always in a healthy manner and in a balanced manner, because with weight loss, skin starts becoming loose, your hair fall may start, you may start looking old. So these things obviously we don't want. People want to reduce weight to look good. What is the point of reducing weight and becoming slim if you start losing your hair, if you start looking older? So it is always wise to reduce with normal healthy diet, and please do not go for fat diets. Even the best of the best doctors, even the best diabetologists will never tell you to go for keto diets. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good afternoon, madam.
Good
So
afternoon.
my question is, can you just put some light
Yeah.
on the diet or on the food that should be avoided by a person having acidity?
Acidity. Okay. Before avoiding foods, I would say first of all, increase your water. First of all, check early morning at empty stomach what you are having. Always have a lot of water in the morning. That is water therapy. You have to start with water. And then you have to yourself identify which foods are actually triggering the acidity. As per our knowledge, we have to first of all eliminate chili powder or peppers, but there are also certain high fiber foods which you may not be able to digest, because of which you are getting acidity. Also, maybe the ingredients, maybe the spices that you are having, if they are ready made, maybe those spices are also not healthy. Maybe they are adulterated and are causing acidity. So there are several causes. We have to first of all identify what is the cause of acidity. But for eliminating, you, of course, you are the best judge which food causes acidity. But at the same time, if you are having acidity, if you are taking antacid daily, if you're taking a lot of maybe Pantop or Aciloc or any other antacid daily, that means your vitamin B12 level will also reduce in no time. And if vitamin B12 level will reduce, that means your hemoglobin will also start reducing. That is the reason why acidity has to be first fixed. And this is one of the major causes for other diseases such as autoimmune disorders, because if acidity is not controlled, then the internal lining of the intestine will also start corroding. And once it starts corroding, then foods which nutrients which should not be absorbed by the body will be absorbed, and then this will start triggering certain inflammatory responses in our body. For example, arthritis, for example, hypothyroidism, and other autoimmune disorders. So we have to first identify the cause, and the foods where we have to identify which foods are causing, and the spices, of course, we have to identify what is which kind of spices you're using, the source of spices, and vegetables should be nicely cooked. And some people also get acidity due to maybe rotis. Then if roti is the cause, then you have to eliminate roti and start having rice or other cereal products. And some people also get acidity by having milk. So we have to identify the cause, and at the same time increase our water intake throughout the day. Keep on sipping water. And also, if you do not have kidney problems, then you can keep chewing soft, that is fennel seeds, on and off. You chew soft. You can also chew ajwain seeds along with a little bit of pinch of hing and pinch of black salt along with some hot water. And this will significantly help in reducing your acidity. And when you continue this for about a month or so, then this will definitely help in reducing your acidity. But first of all, you have to identify the triggering factor.
So, madam, is there any general saying that during acidity we should not take coffee or tea or something? We should avoid it.
Yes, yes, tea or coffee, if they are the source of your acidity, if they are the cause of your acidity, then definitely you have to avoid. Mostly, I have seen milk tea or coffee is one of the major reasons. So, if that is the triggering factor, you have to avoid that. and instead go for green tea or black tea, red tea. And also you can go for normal, you can prepare tea out of salt and ajwain also, and then you can have it in the form of tea without any tea leaves. So this will also help in reducing your acidity.
Okay, fine. Madam, my last question.
Yeah.
There is a problem of gastric. Gas problem is always used to be there. So what we should do, because whatever we are taking, it generates gases or it eliminates gas, but the gas problem is still there. So any special advice
Yeah, that
that
is what. Yeah, that is what I said. You have to identify which food may be the cause. Usually, it is either milk or it can be wheat. So usually, these are the foods of all the tea or coffee or spices. So, and also at the same time, you identify how much. First of all, to keep a track of your water intake. If your water intake is less, you have to take water throughout the day. And also, you have to see whether your diet has got sufficient amount of probiotics or not. If probiotics are there, then obviously your digestion will be improved, your absorption will be improved, and then acidity will automatically start reducing.
thank you so much, madam. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
I want to take some question from chat box.
Yeah.
Gargi Pen is asking how to wash which your vegetable, normal water, hot water, or salt water.
See, especially during this pandemic time, whatever fruits or vegetable comes in, first of all, we have to wash in baking soda water or chlorine tablets. We can just dip in one or two chlorine tablets in a drop of water. You wash them nicely and then again wash in running water, under running water, and then only you start cooking, cutting and cooking these vegetables.
Okay. Premila Swami is asking from some supplement for vitamin D.
See, actually, being a dietitian, I on a public platform, I cannot prescribe any vitamin D supplement. It is something which the doctor is authorized to prescribe. But there are several vitamin D supplements which are available with their amount of dosage that is required for your body. But first of all, identify. Instead of blindly taking vitamin D supplement, first of all, go for a vitamin D test, blood test, and then if it is very low, then the doctor will prescribe for either for injections or maybe supplements. So first of all, go for a blood test, and then only the doctor will say. But a dietitian is not authorized to prescribe vitamin D supplements.
Deepmala Biradar is asking how to increase the metabolism rate.
Okay, metabolism rate increases in two ways. One is through exercise, through moderate exercise, and also through diet. Through diet by having foods every 2 or 2.5 hours, your metabolism will increase. But there are also certain foods like, for example, cinnamon, for example, the other spices which also increase the metabolic rate.
Eknath Srivastava is asking how mushroom helpful in reducing stress level.
See, mushrooms are basically high in proteins, and they're a very good source of protein, but also they are also rich sources of vitamin D. So they help in reducing the inflammatory processes that goes on in the body. For example, stress can be an outcome of many factors. It can be due to thyroid disorders. It can be due to gas or acidity or constipation. So if your vitamin D levels are sufficient, then this will in turn make all the biochemical processes healthy. Once all the biochemical processes become start functioning properly, once the organs start functioning properly, then automatically your stress level will decrease. So vitamin D is also helpful in reducing stress.
Dr. Rupa K is asking, is keto diet good for long time?
Is
Keto diet good for
keto
long time?
diet is never good. Keto diet is never good. It will definitely harm your liver and kidneys. So if you are doing keto diet, then I would suggest stop that, and there is a tapering. If you stop keto diet, do not directly go straight away to your normal food. There has to be tapering, and like you are taking very heavy meals like foods high in proteins and fats, then you have to gradually start reducing the amounts and then start having normal diet. But keto diets will definitely harm your kidneys and your liver. And also increase of cholesterol level, bad cholesterol levels.
Another question is, having tomato seeds, if we have, it causes cancer?
No, it do no. Tomato seeds are good, but yes, if you have kidney stones, then we do not prescribe tomato seeds during this condition. But tomato seeds are good for, they are, in fact, all seeds, all fruits that have seeds, all the seeds have got vitamin B17, which is called laetrile. It is anti-cancerous in nature. So I don't think, and I have never come across this, that tomato seeds can ever cause cancer.
Thank you, ma'am. Another is, can omega-3 and fish oil reduce mental stress?
Yes, it is anti-inflammatory in nature. It directly has a direct effect on our brain. Our brain is made up of fatty acids. So whatever good fatty acids that we have, we directly affect our brain. It is anti-inflammatory in nature.
If someone is having liver disease, what type of diet he should take?
Could you please specify the kind of liver disease? It is fatty liver, or it is other kind of steatohepatitis, or and if you could specify the disease, so the condition of the liver.
She has not mentioned in detail.
Fatty liver, ma'am.
Fatty liver. Okay. If you have fatty liver, then that does not mean that only you will start reducing fatty food. But for fatty liver, exercise is very important. At the same time, from the dietary point of view, you have to also reduce the cereals. Once you start reducing cereals and the cereals products, the fatty liver will automatically start reducing.
But if you reduce cereal, then what you will eat, ma'am?
Reduce, not stop. You reduce the quantity of cereals. You should not stop. How can we stop cereals? It is a staple food of Indians.
Right. And by fish oil, you mean to say cod liver oil, the tablet?
Yes, it is cod liver oil. It is cod liver oil that is available. 7 is there. Then there are other brands who are giving good quality fish oil that are being sourced from salmon, that are being sourced from mackerel, that are being sourced from artichokes. These are all, sorry, from anchovies, are all good quality fish oils. So always look for the source of the fish oil. But again, 7 cod liver oil is also good, but go for the salmon or mackerel or anchovies fish oil.
How to identify the cause of weight gain?
See, we have to, that of course an expert can find out, either your doctor or your dietitian. If we take a detailed medical history, then see, when we take a medical history, it is not just about your blood reports or the doctor's prescription that we consider. We take a detailed information, right from, first of all, we take your age, weight and height, we take in consideration your digestion levels, your food tolerance levels, your previous history of other diseases. After taking everything into consideration, then we can identify what can be the cause of the weight gain. At the same time, diet, because only medical history will not help. The proper dietary recall in details will also help in identifying the cause of weight gain.
Another question is, what
Yeah.
is the source to get vitamin B12 for vegetarian people?
For vegetarian people, right? It is very interesting. The moment you get vitamin B12 deficiency, the doctor gives you mecobalamin, and this is directly sourced from beef liver. So for vegetarians, vitamin B12 source is from, first of all, fermented rice or curd, or any kind of probiotic capsules that you take, or even yeast. The yeast that is used for fermenting dosa batter and all. The yeast, this yeast, if you prepare any kind of dish, for example, a curry or even dal, after you finish cooking the dal, after the smoke reduces a bit, then you add a little bit of yeast and mix it nicely. This will also help in increasing your vitamin B12 levels.
Thank you. Another question is, after menopause, is there any possibility of reduction in weight?
Yes, definitely, because though menopause reduces and alters the metabolism of the woman, but it is the food intake which has to be taken into consideration. If your food intake is nicely prepared, if your diet is nicely planned as per your body's requirement, as per your medical history and diet history, then definitely menopause women are also reducing weight.
Suprakash Mondal is asking for some healthy food during the COVID situation.
Okay, all actually even during the COVID situation, any food are all prophylactic in nature. This will help in preventing. All the foods that I mentioned, the anti-inflammatory foods, are the foods that will help in protecting against COVID-19. These are all rich in a lot of antioxidants, the spices and herbs that I said. All these are very rich in antioxidants. They will reduce any kind of infection that you may come across. And I would say that I myself, my whole family was infected with COVID. It came from my husband. He went through he is working with the DGP, and because he mixes up with so many police personnel, and he got this, and our entire family got infected. But we were all fine. We did not have any high fever. We did not have any kind of serious illnesses, any serious side effects, because the anti-inflammatory foods, the kind of spices we use in our tea, the foods that we were regularly having probiotics, we were regularly having omega. All these foods are anti-inflammatory in nature. COVID-19 means what? The virus has entered the body. The virus entered the body means our body has the immune system has become activated, and the how well the immune system will function will depend on your type of diet. So that is the reason whatever fruits and vegetables, whatever foods I mentioned in today's presentation, the anti-inflammatory foods, the spices, even including vitamin D, all these are helpful in fighting COVID-19.
Madhuridas Memam asking for antiviral foods.
Antiviral foods. Number one food is spirulina. Again, if you go for spirulina, if you want to buy it online, be sure that you don't buy adulterated spirulina. Most of the brands are selling spirulina mixed with soybean powder. So when you buy spirulina, you can just message me which brand to buy. I will tell you. And spirulina is the number one antiviral food right now, and also the spices, uh, like for example turmeric, and then your high percentage, high curcumin, turmeric, ginger, pepper, cinnamon, bay leaf. All these are anti-inflammatory. You can prepare a tea out of these spices, and you can have them daily, and this will definitely help in reducing all the inflammatory process of the body.
Nikhil Parekh is asking vitamin B12. Can you get vitamin B12 from spirulina?
Spirulina is rich in B12, but the vitamin B12 that is available in plant foods cannot be directly absorbed by our intestine. There are just like a lock and key, a particular key only works with a particular lock. Similarly, there are certain intrinsic factors in our intestine. So, vitamin B12 has to be absorbed by certain intrinsic sites of our intestine, and the kind of structure that the vitamin B12 in spirulina has cannot be absorbed by the human body. Only the vitamin B12 sources from animal sources will be absorbed. That is the reason if you are a vegetarian, then you can get vitamin B12 from fermented foods. That is the best way to get vitamin B12.
Chitrasan Mahak is asking, can a vegetarian be muscular?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Being muscular is all about having a balanced diet with some good amount of protein and also some resistant training. Resistant training is very important. Until and unless you do a proper kind of weight training, until and unless your muscles do not tear, then your muscles will not develop sufficiently. That is the reason a good, well-balanced diet with sufficient amount of protein as per your body's requirements, along with resistance training, will help in developing muscles.
Another question is Satyabir Naulekha. He's asking, please suggest some diet which can help study and memorize better.
Study and memorize better. First of all, water. Okay, first of all, water. Then second is probiotics, because once you start having good bacteria in your food, then definitely your gut health will be fine. Once your gut health is fine, definitely your memorizing power will increase. Water is definitely there, and also foods rich in iron. Iron-rich foods are from, if you're a non-vegetarian, non-vegetarian foods, or otherwise spinach and other green leafy vegetables are rich in iron. But at the same time, if you're having iron-rich foods, again, I would say, as I already mentioned, vitamin C has to be there with iron-rich foods because vitamin C alone will help in proper absorption of iron. Iron is important because hemoglobin is the only molecule that is in your blood which helps in carrying oxygen to the brain. That is the reason why iron is very important for concentration and for memory. Okay.
Kindly suggest diet plan to lose weight for vegetarian people.
For
Vegetarian people.
diet plan. See, diet plan is something which I already said. There cannot be a fixed diet plan for anybody. Your history has to be identified. Every person has got a unique metabolism. You have a different kind of medical history. You have a different kind of dietary intake. And as per your intake, whatever kind of deficiency you're having, whatever is a kind of meal planning in your family, whatever food you're having, as per your medical history, then only the diet plan can be planned accordingly. But no diet plan that is readily available. If you want, then I can give you a diet plan easily. But that will just be a temporary, a very shortcut method, and it will not help you
Its purpose is
sufficiently
to lose weight.
to
Its
lose weight.
purpose.
Well, yeah, that is the reason. For losing weight, it has to be nicely calculated. Because what is the point of losing weight by just reducing foods? It has to be in right quantity so that you also reduce weight, you become slimmer, and also at the same time you don't start looking weak and old. So that is the reason a diet plan has to be formulated in a very calculated way. You see, when we talk about diet, then people have this misconception that when you go to a nutrition or dietitian, our only job is to just give a diet plan or just give a diet chart. This is what people say. But a diet plan is something which we can formulate after taking a proper medical history and a diet history of the person. Then only this diet will work. No ready-made diet plans will ever work properly on anybody. With this, I would also like to say because people have a wrong notion that a dietitian will just give you a diet plan. But then, just like if you have a toothache, if you have to go for a tooth extraction, then you'll not go to a cardiologist. You'll go to a dentist. If a water tap is not working in your bathroom, you'll not go to an electrician. You'll go for a plumber. So similarly, when it is related to your diet, it has to be always from a qualified dietitian. Nowadays, you'll come across many quacks. There are many even people who are least educated, no science background, they have no knowledge of human physiology of human diseases, and they just do a short-term course and then they call themselves nutritionists. But that is not the right way. Food is not just the food that we have that is available in a plate. Food is a mixture of several kinds of biochemical ingredients. The vitamins and minerals are nothing but certain kinds of biochemical ingredients. So, and each of these ingredients has got its own metabolic process. And only after properly identifying what is your metabolism, then only we can get a proper diet. That is the reason you have to consult the qualified dietitian instead of going for ready-made diets.
One dietitian has suggested one drop of edible sandalwood oil in hot water, small half glass of water. That is for guts. Is it,
That is
for guts?
for
For keeping your this whole digestive system okay.
for your gut, sandalwood oil.
One drop sandalwood oil with a small half glass of hot water.
Yes, possible. Sandalwood oil definitely is a good oil, but at the same time, coconut oil will also help for your gut. 1 or 2 drops of coconut oil itself is good. If you have good source of coconut oil, if you have pure coconut oil, that will also help.
Okay. Sometimes coconut oil, somebody says it's cool. It has been made by cool process, and one another is some hot process is there. So is there any
Cold press is good. Cold press is good, and also you can even prepare coconut oil at home. Just buy the dry coconuts, the copra we get. You buy those, and then just you nicely make a paste out of it, and then strain it nicely at home. You get coconut oil at home.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Another participant is asking to suggest supplement for controlling hair fall.
The cause of hair fall can be varied. There can be hormonal imbalances. There can be a deficiency of certain B vitamins. There can be a deficiency of other nutrients too in the diet. So the cause has to be identified. So once the cause is identified, your hair fall can be stopped. But if you're having periods irregularities in your periods, that means and along with irregular periods, if you're having hair fall, then definitely you have hormonal problems. So for that, you need to have good amount of seeds in your diet. For example, like pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, all these kind of seeds, including sesame seeds, white and black. All these seeds will also help in reducing your hair fall. Plus, at the same time, have a good balance diet. If there is deficiency of certain nutrients, also will also trigger hair fall. So we need to find out the cause first of all, and then it can be helped.
Nobomita Dev ma'am is asking, what are the benefits of raw turmeric roots, and is advisable to have in empty stomach?
See, having turmeric at empty stomach, it depends on your tolerance factor. Because if it is empty stomach, first of all, definitely, if you want to get the benefits, first of all, definitely you have to drink water. Never have anything else at empty stomach, because after a night's fast, the whole night you do not eat anything, and immediately if you eat something. Especially from the spices category, then it may just trigger some acidic reaction. So that is the reason, first of all, drink water, then you can have raw turmeric, provided your body can accept and tolerate turmeric at empty stomach. But of course, it is helpful, and turmeric will only work best on will be best absorbed by your body when it is mixed in along with pepper.
Another participant asking, how to avoid acidity?
It seems a lot of people have acidity. First and foremost, you increase your water intake. Identify the cause, whether it is wheat or it is milk or it is spices or which kind of food is triggering your acidity. Identify the cause. Have frequent meals. After every 2.5 hours or 2 hours, you keep having something or the other, something healthy, not the spicy ones. If you do not eat for long hours, then also you get acidity. So water is important. Frequent meals is important. Stop red chili or pepper powder, and stop very high fibrous foods if they are also one of the causes of acidity. And also stop wheat if you can identify that wheat is causing your acidity, or milk is also one of the causes. So identifying the cause is very important.
Sharanya Velumani is asking, is the chocolate can decrease stress level?
Sorry?
Chocolate can decrease stress level.
Chocolate has got caffeine, cocoa. So caffeine will momentarily reduce stress level. But again, as I said in the presentation itself, I said it will only give the satisfaction, or it will reduce the stress momentarily. The moment the effect of the caffeine reduces, again, the stress will also start. So first of all, we have to identify what is causing the stress. Increase good amount of good antioxidant foods, increase water, do some good amount of workout, like even 15 to 20 minutes of walk will also help in reducing stress, because when you walk, a simple walk of 15 minutes will also help in releasing the stress hormone, cortisol hormone. So alone, we should not consider chocolate as a satisfying food. We should go for other natural foods. And also, at the same time, I would say that I don't know whether you are aware of it or not. If you go for chocolates, you're also eating cockroaches, because the FDA has allowed at least 16% of cockroaches in chocolate. So, and the coffee beans, when they are being fermented in those large tanks in the factories, this attracts the very flavor and the smell of coffee beans fermentation. We don't like it, but it is a treat for the cockroaches, and a lot of cockroaches enter those large tanks of coffee beans. The FDA has allowed 16% of cockroaches also along with coffee. If you consider chocolate being as one of the factors for reducing stress, then at the same time you're also eating toxic things in the form of cockroaches along with chocolates. So always go for normal foods for reducing stress.
Another question is, when to take sweets, before food or after food?
Sweets or fruits?
Foods.
Okay, fruits, actually it depends how sweet it is. Usually you should always take fruits in the mid meals, especially in the mid morning or mid afternoon. but never with foods. But if it is Mossambi or if it is not so sweet and it is citrus in nature, then you can definitely take along with your food because it is a rich source of vitamin C. But if you're taking apples or if you're taking pears or if you're taking watermelons, then you should definitely not take along with foods. You should always take it at least 2 hours before or after food, but never at empty stomach.
Shormanshu Mukhopadhyay asking for gaining weight.
For gaining weight, again, for gaining weight also there are several causes. You may be deficient in certain nutrients, you may be deficient in vitamin D, your gut health may not be good, you may be having deficiency of certain nutrients, you may be having acidity, you may be having indigestion problems. Even if digestion is fine, there may be problem in absorption of the nutrients. So once the cause is identified, I can definitely help with your weight gain. But it is a wrong notion for weight gain. A lot of people who are going to the gym for gaining weight, they simply succumb to the offers of the gym instructors. They simply offer them buy this supplement, and the supplements are worth around 3,000, 5,000 rupees. But protein supplements alone will not help in increasing your muscles. So the cause have to be identified. The causes, which causes are actually hindering your weight gain. Identify the causes. Improve your diet. If your diet is not sufficient in proteins, then only go for protein supplements. And then also resistance training. Resistance training means good amount of weight training will also help in weight gain.
Madam, hello, madam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am Sonakshu Mukherjee. Ma'am,
Yeah.
actually, my height is 6.1. Okay, and I am below 30. But unfortunately, I could not gain weight. Everybody is talking of losing weight, but I need to gain weight. But
What's
how
your
to?
blood group? What's your blood
O,
group?
O positive, ma'am.
Okay.
I
So first
don't
of
have
all,
any acidity problem. Neither I have any sort of, indigestion problem. I am total teetotaler. I never smoke. I don't take alcohol by any means. But still, I am unable to gain body weight.
first of
I,
all,
I'm only,
identify.
I'm only 70 kilo, 70, 71 kg.
And you're 6'7". Okay. So you need to gain at least just 4 kgs. So that's fine. 70 to 75 is okay. But then if you are not happy with your weight, if you want to gain some weight, then gain some muscles instead of some fats. First of all, identify what is the cause. Are you drinking sufficient water? Are you taking sufficient amount of curd or other probiotics? Are you taking a balanced meal? And accordingly, do a little bit of exercises. Your gut health is important. Once, because you said you don't have acidity, but maybe there's problem with your absorption. Maybe there are other problems such as like if you go for a complete blood count test, maybe your hemoglobin is fine, but
Yeah.
there are other factors like MCH, MCV, or other other readings may be not normal. So we have to identify which cause is hampering your weight gain. Once you identify the cause, definitely your weight gain will take place.
Okay. Ma'am, should I take, supplementary protein?
Before going for supplements, first of all, you identify the cause because supplements, again, with supplements also you have to identify. Protein
Yeah.
supplements vaguely will not help. You need to know what is the cause because anything that you take apart from food may or may not have side effects. Maybe your diet is not deficient in proteins and you are just keeping on taking extra proteins. Extra proteins will lead to kidney stone may develop or maybe your bones will start getting leached. So extra proteins can also lead to other
Yeah,
metabolic
it
disorders.
can be harmful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that is the reason. If you're taking sufficient amount of proteins, you
Yeah.
identify. You go through. There are certain calorie counting apps. You download one of these apps, and then once you input your intake, like you just write down your intake right from the morning, what all you're taking, how much you're taking, including the spices and oils that have been used in the vegetables. After you add all this food stuff and the ingredients in those charts, then it will just show you the result, how much of protein you're taking. Then you calculate how much grams of protein is there. If you're taking 10
And
grams
ma'am,
of protein,
and
10
ma'am,
grams of
that can be calculated only by having the blood test, right?
no, I'm talking about an app. There are many calorie counting apps. You put down all the food stuff that you're having, and then the
Okay.
end result that will show how much
Yeah.
of protein you're taking, including your milk and seeds and everything, dals and everything. Entire the whole, not just the protein-rich foods, and enter the information of all the food ingredients that you're having from morning till night, and the end result that will show the amount of protein that it shows in grams. If the protein is more than if like the ratio is 10 grams per kg body weight, if you're consuming 10 grams of protein per kg of your body weight, that means your protein intake is sufficient. If it is
Okay.
less, then definitely you have to start having a little bit of other extra proteins, but good amount of protein. Go for plant-based proteins.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, ma'am. Thank you a lot.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I think we is
Ma'am,
already 2
is
p.m.
it a 10 gram or 1 gram, ma'am,
10 grams per kg body weight.
per kg? And can you
Yeah.
tell me about the BMR? Because if you are having a high BMR, so naturally you are forced to eat more. No, body is consuming
BMR means your body will be consuming more of
metabolic rate.
more of calories. Your energy will be expended in a faster rate.
Yeah.
But because your BMR is high, that does not mean that you can keep on eating more. It always has to be qualitative food than the quantitative food. Qualitative food in terms of it has to be balanced along with a lot of fruits and vegetables, and not the quantity of food that you're eating. Because if you're having more of empty calories like this, if you're having more of cereals, if you're having more of sugars and fats, then of course it will harm you in the long run.
Yeah. And how can I reduce it? Like 1700 to 1800 is my BMR.
See, if BMR is actually dicey, if you are a little bit obese, then your BMR will automatically will show high because of your surface area. When the surface area is also high, it is also BMR is also related to your muscle mass. So it is a very dicey situation actually. Metabolic rate of an obese person who is above 100 kg will always show more. So BMR is actually a tricky aspect actually. So you have to not consider BMR that is showing in the BCM machine or by some calculations. You have to increase your BMR through food, through frequent meals, and through certain spices, and through workout. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you, Chayanika Sharma, ma'am. It was a
Thank you.
wonderful session. I think the participants do have a lot more questions to ask, but since the time is limited, I think we can take up only limited
No,
questions
the
in this session.
participants, if you all have any more queries, you can just search on Google for Best Diet by Dietitian Chayanika. Best Diet is the name of my company, BESTDIET. So whenever you search for Best Diet by Dietitian Chayanika, you'll find my contact information, everything. You can contact me directly.
I think I'll share the information also, the information that you
Yeah.
have given me, I'll share with the participants. I'll make sure.
Yeah.
So with this, I would like to thank you for giving us your valuable time and giving us some knowledge on good diet plans and helping us to sort out so many questions of the participants today. So
It's
that was
endless
really
actually.
wonderful.
It is
And
endless.
I think the participants also did enjoy a
Yeah.
lot talking to you and interacting with you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Aradhana. Thank you, everyone.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.